There have been 1,000 small miracles in this journey that has led me to be the farmer that I am today. Not the least of which is the fact that Mr. Karl Ebel is my close neighbor. 10 months ago, I knew very little of him or what he was doing, and I had very little interest in it until that day I became unshakably interested in beef cattle. He heard that a girl up the road had that interest, and he spent 3 hours on my front porch answering every question I could throw at him. At the end of the night, I was sitting there thinking, what am I doing? Feeling so in over my head, and at that point in time, he looked at me and he said, Grace, if you just get going, you can't go wrong. Not only that, was he said, if you need help getting started and you want to purchase from my herd, I will help you pick 3 of my best steers to get you started in this grass-fed beef endeavor. Now, anyone familiar with my story from following this channel will know that that initial interest in beef cattle eventually led me to become a shepherdess. What's more amazing about this story is that Mr. Karl Ebel is a regenerative rancher and has worked extensively with land management practices and rotational grazing to restore portions of his 900 acres to native tall grass prairie. His native grasses have developed to the place where he can run his large herd of cattle without feeding any hay over winter. Now, Mr. Karl Ebel is going to be the co-host of April 2021's Small Farmer Virtual Meetup. He will be there to answer any and every question that you have on his operation, as well as share encouragement for those just starting or possibly midstream. Mr. Karl started when he was 45 years old and made ranching his full-time occupation. Without further ado, I will get into a bit of an impromptu interview I was able to conduct while at his ranch during kidding season. He shares some invaluable insights on the worthiness of farming and ranching as an occupation that offers advantages far above what can be measured by dollars and cents.
We're American. Culture is strong. It's what we're immersed in. So how do people judge? How do I feel like I'm successful? You look around you, and the general population says, oh, he's got a new truck. He must be successful. He just bought a new tractor. Mm-hmm. So then it becomes, I need to acquire some of this to feel okay about me doing a good enough job to feel successful with my peers. We don't even think of it, but it's there. And it's what drives us sometimes in the wrong direction. Right. So now we have a big year and the calves sell really good. And man, we got some extra money here. Yeah. What do? We buy another tractor. Or we buy a brand new truck that we really didn't have to have. So now what happens? Our debt. So we're thinking, yeah, but the market's so good, it's going to do this for some more years. And maybe not. Maybe it does this. Mm-hmm. So now what you thought your market was here is now down here, and you can't serve the debt you have on this new stuff you bought. You look in an immediate way, you look like you're successful because you've been able to buy these new things, but we need to turn loose of some of that. Yeah. And say, this is what I'm in it for. I want to make the land better and let go a little bit of some of this other stuff that really kind of helps us stumble. And I think it's not really out of the question that we could see a really big shift in the next 20 years. I'm not going to say, hey, you know, the food producers are going to get this big reward, you know, income reward in the next 5 years. But I think in the next 20, I think we're going to see the food producers rewarded.
And to be a food producer, you need infrastructure, and that takes time to establish.
That's right, Grace. You cannot, I'm in, because by the time you figure out, hey, doing pretty good,
Right.
it's going to cost you a lot more to get in the business.
Some of what happened this last year caused me to think more in this direction. I did realize that if we ever hit anything like this again, we're going to need more people with infrastructure to facilitate a solution. And I think that people like me are going to have to start today for what may be necessary in 20 years.
And 20 years is just a blink. We started this 20 years ago.
Well, it seems like, 20 years, that's too long. I can't think in those terms.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
Yeah.
It passes quick.
Just start,
You just gotta start
where you are.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Start where you are. You can completely replicate what we're doing on a small scale.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like what you've been doing.
Yeah.
And so you just start where you are. I mean, start small, and you can learn so much in an acre or two.
So what's your advice to 40-year-olds who want to get started? You were 40 when you started.
I got into it, and then I said, this is going to be my main focus, about 45.
45.
Yeah, of course. I had done some other careers before that.
Did that give you a good foundation as far as financially?
Yes, it
Absolutely.
did. And you can do it other ways. Everybody can't go out and buy the property they need. You know, it might be a lease agreement or some other terms on how to get the land that you need. But with the first career that I had, yes, that enabled me to buy the piece of property that I needed to start the whole process.
And that's kind of hopeful in a lot of ways for people who are starting midlife.
Pretty normal.
Yeah.
Pretty normal for somebody to, they go to college, they have some ideas about what are they doing, this could be a career, and they pursue that, and they really enjoy it, and it's fulfilling, and then all of a sudden they come to another point with their family, and they're like, you know, I've got kids, and what are they going to experience in the city, and they begin to say, you know what, this may be a time for me to shift and do something. The benefit for the boy, our boys, or any children. You know, in a city setting, you're isolated from so much of what makes up life. Growing up, the husbandry, the dedication, and when you come and you immerse yourself, you're having birth, you're having death. Unfortunately, that's part of it, but that's something we all need to come to terms with. And those young people, those kids, it's part of what they absorb and learn just being here.
And that's got a value beyond what?
That has a huge value. We are, as a population, as a group of people, we're becoming pretty far away from a lot of that. Culture is strong. It's what we're immersed in. So how do people judge? How do I feel like I'm successful? In an immediate way, you look like you're successful because you've been able to buy these new things, but we need to turn loose of some of that.
Yeah.
And say, you know, this is what I'm in it for. I want to make the land better and let go a little bit of some of this other stuff that really kind of helps us stumble and